Every trader believes they can master the market, but few realize the market was never the true opponent. The real battle happens in silence, not between bulls and bears, but between awareness and impulse. You can learn every strategy, every setup, every indicator, and still lose to the voice inside your head that says this time is different. That voice is subtle. It hides in logic, disguises itself as intuition, and whispers at the edge of every decision. It's the voice that pulls you into trades you shouldn't take and keeps you trapped in losses you should have cut. Those are the mind traps. Invisible psychological patterns that every trader falls for again and again until they finally see them. But once you see them, you can disarm them. And when you do, trading stops being a war and becomes a practice of self-mastery. This is mind over markets. And today we're diving into the mind traps every trader falls for and how to disarm them fast. There's a moment in every trader's journey when you realize the enemy isn't the market. It's your own mind. The market moves the way it moves. It doesn't care who you are, what you believe, or how badly you need a win. But the mind, it reacts, distorts, and creates stories. Those stories are what destroy consistency. Every trader starts with logic. You study charts, back test setups, follow plans. But at some point, emotion sneaks in, disguised as conviction. And that's when the traps appear. You don't see them coming. They don't announce themselves. They whisper. They sound like confidence, reason, or intuition. But they're just old mental habits wearing new trading clothes. I call them mind traps, the invisible biases that shape your behavior when risk and uncertainty collide. You can't trade well until you learn to recognize them, because every time you fall into one, you give up awareness. And awareness is the only real edge a trader has. Let's explore these traps, not from charts, not from theory, but from the inside, from the mind that trades, from the same thoughts and emotions that have fooled every trader at least once. The first is the "I knew it" trap. It's the illusion of control that follows hindsight. You take a trade, it loses, you close it in frustration, and moments later the market reverses right in the direction you expected. You whisper to yourself, "I knew it." That phrase feels harmless, even empowering, but it's poison. Because the truth is you didn't know, you felt. And when you confuse feeling with knowing, your next decision is already compromised. The mind wants certainty, and when it can't find it in the future, it creates it in the past. That's the trick. Hindsight gives the illusion of understanding, but it's just memory re-edited by emotion. The danger, it reinforces overconfidence. You start believing you're almost right every time. You begin trading not from signals, but from frustration, trying to prove your earlier idea was correct. And soon you're no longer trading the market. You're trading your ego's need to be right. To disarm this trap, you must document reality, not the story your mind tells after the facts themselves. Write down what you saw, what you felt, and why you entered before you click buy. Then review that log after. Hindsight loses power when confronted with evidence. It can't rewrite what's written. Journaling is not just about tracking trades. It's about tracking your perception. It shows you how often your mind lies to protect your pride. And the moment you see that lie clearly, it starts to dissolve. The second trap is revenge trading. It's the emotional echo of loss. You lose a trade, the pain hits instantly. Not just financial pain, identity pain. The mind interprets loss as threat. It doesn't care that this is just one trade in 100. It feels like an attack on who you are, so it seeks to strike back. That's revenge, trading the instinct to recover quickly, to erase the discomfort, to reclaim control. But here's the truth. When you trade to feel better, you will always feel worse, because emotion makes you impatient, and impatience destroys probability. The market has no memory, only you do. So every revenge trade is you fighting a ghost, and you can't win against something that only exists in your mind. To disarm this trap, you need one rule: pause after pain. After a loss, take a deliberate break. Step away from the screen. Breathe. Feel the body, the tension, the tightness. That physical awareness interrupts the feedback loop of revenge. You remind yourself this pain is not a signal to act. It's a signal to observe. You're not trying to suppress emotion. You're letting it pass through without becoming it. Because when emotion moves freely, clarity returns. Every minute you delay your next trade after a loss increases your odds of regaining discipline. The third trap is one every trader knows too well: FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's the psychological pull of movement, the belief that opportunity exists only in motion, not in stillness. You see price breakout, your pulse quickens, you feel you're about to be left behind, you click buy not because your setup triggered, but because your patience did. That's not strategy. That's anxiety disguised as action. And FOMO is the most expensive anxiety in trading. Why? Because it always appears right before exhaustion when a move is overextended. It preys on impatience and dopamine. Your mind sees other people winning and it interprets that as threat to survival. It doesn't know this is a game of probabilities. It still believes it's a tribe where being left out means death. That's why FOMO feels physical. It's ancient, it's primal, and it will never go away completely. You can't eliminate it, but you can reframe it. When you feel the urge to chase, remind yourself, if I miss this move, I preserve energy for the next. There is no shortage of opportunity, only shortage of clarity. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is the highest form of control. And every time you resist FOMO, your confidence compounds quietly in the background. The fourth trap is more subtle: confirmation bias. This one fools even the disciplined trader. You take a position, then you start searching for evidence to justify it. You scroll through news headlines, watch videos, read opinions, and your mind filters out anything that contradicts you. You think you're analyzing, but you're actually validating. You're feeding your belief instead of testing it. The danger here is not ignorance, it's illusion of knowledge. You start feeling informed, but you're only reinforcing your narrative. When the market moves against you, you interpret it as temporary because your mind refuses to accept dissonance. To disarm this trap, develop the habit of mental counter trading. Before every entry, ask, if I'm wrong, what would the market be showing me? Force your brain to see both sides. Because objectivity isn't the absence of bias, it's awareness of it. Professional traders don't eliminate bias. They learn to hold conflicting information without emotional collapse. That's why they can change direction faster. Flexibility is not weakness, it's intelligence under uncertainty. And then comes the most dangerous of all, the sunk cost trap. It's the mind's refusal to accept reality. You're deep in drawdown. You tell yourself, I can't close, now I've lost too much already. You keep holding, hoping. You don't see that the trade is no longer about money, it's about identity. This is the trap where traders lose months, sometimes years, because they start trading not for profit, but for redemption. They're no longer in the market, they're in therapy they didn't know they needed. To disarm this trap, you must redefine loss. A loss is not failure, it's data. It's feedback about your perception, not your worth. When you see it that way, you release the emotional charge attached to being wrong. Every great trader has one thing in common: they cut fast. Not because they don't feel pain, but because they feel it early and act before it owns them. The hardest truth in trading psychology is this: you will never eliminate these traps. You will only see them sooner. And the sooner you see them, the less they control you. Awareness disarms faster than discipline, because discipline without awareness becomes punishment. But awareness, quiet, patient, honest awareness, dissolves the trap before it tightens. When you begin to recognize these mind traps as patterns, not failures, something shifts. You stop judging yourself, you start observing yourself, and observation is the doorway to mastery. You start to realize something deeper. The traps are not mistakes, they are mirrors. Each one shows you a part of your mind you were too busy to see before. They are not signs of weakness, they are invitations to awareness. When you fall into them, you are not failing. You are being shown where your consciousness ends and your conditioning begins. That realization changes everything, because once you stop treating these traps as enemies, you begin to study them. You start to notice the subtle moments right before they appear, the tension in your chest before a revenge trade, the quickened breath when you see a chart explode without you, the internal dialogue whispering, "I can't lose again." Those are early warnings, tiny signals of emotional volatility. The traders who survive the longest are not those who avoid them, but those who hear them soon enough to pause. That pause is the difference between reaction and response, between impulsive action and conscious choice, between losing control and learning from emotion. You will never stop feeling, but you can decide how quickly you notice feeling becoming behavior. That is awareness, the bridge between emotion and execution. At first, this feels impossible. You'll tell yourself, "I can't stop thinking." You don't have to. You just have to watch the thought instead of becoming it. The moment you can see your thought, you're no longer trapped inside it. Imagine this awareness as a second screen one that shows not price charts, but your internal state in real time. When you notice stress rising, that's your signal. When excitement grows too fast, that's also a signal. Each emotion is data, just like a candle or a moving average. But while market data tells you what price is doing, emotional data tells you what you are about to do. If you can read both, you have an edge no algorithm can replicate. This is why journaling matters so much. It's not about the trade, it's about the trader. The journal captures what memory edits. It reveals patterns of thought the mind hides behind logic. Over time, you'll see how predictable you really are. And in that recognition, freedom begins. When you know that anger always leads to overtrading, you can build a rule that interrupts anger before it acts. When you see that excitement precedes error, you can anchor yourself with breath before pressing buy. That's not weakness, that's engineering emotional defense. Every trader needs a circuit breaker, a ritual that halts the feedback loop when emotion surges. For some, it's as simple as standing up and walking away. For others, it's writing a sentence in their notebook: "I feel touchers, and that's okay, but I will not trade from it." The sentence works because it separates identity from feeling. You're not saying "I'm angry." You're saying "I feel anger." One is fusion, the other is observation. Observation is freedom. It sounds simple, but this shift rewires the nervous system. You begin to associate patience with safety instead of danger. You start to feel reward not from adrenaline, but from clarity. And when clarity becomes your new source of dopamine, discipline stops feeling like sacrifice. This is how professional traders sustain decades in the game. They're not superhuman. They've just trained their nervous system to interpret calm as power. There's another layer to the traps, a meta trap that hides behind all of them. It's the belief that once you learn these lessons, you'll be free forever. That's the ego's last trick. It takes pride in progress and turns it into identity again. You start thinking, "I'm above that now." And in that very thought, the next trap forms. Humility is the final defense. The market exists to remind you that awareness is a practice, not a trophy. The moment you think you've mastered it, you stop watching yourself closely, and slowly the old habits return dressed in new logic. So stay curious about your own reactions. Even when you do everything right, ask, "What did I feel?" Even when you win, ask what part of me wanted this outcome so badly. That curiosity is the essence of mindfulness. Because in trading, pride and pain are just two sides of attachment. The more attached you are to being right, the more it hurts to be wrong. Detach from both, and the market loses its power to wound you. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means staying emotionally open without letting emotion steer the wheel. It's the ability to experience fear and still choose logic, to feel greed and still act according to plan. That's not suppression, it's mastery through awareness. Each time you catch yourself mid-trap, pause and breathe. That single breath marks evolution, the space where instinct turns into insight. You might still lose the trade, but you've won back presence. And presence compounds faster than profit. There's a deeper truth the market keeps teaching quietly to those who listen. Success is emotional stability under uncertainty. That's it. The rest is mechanics. Entries, exits, risk management, they matter, but they serve awareness. Because every decision is filtered through the state of your mind at that moment. You can backtest setups endlessly, but you can't backtest your mood. The only way to stabilize it is to make awareness part of your process. That's why we talk about mind traps, not to avoid them, but to learn how to live among them consciously. Imagine you're walking through a field filled with invisible wires. Each wire represents a bias, revenge, FOMO, pride, denial. Most traders run blindly and get caught. The mindful trader walks slowly, eyes open, noticing tension before it pulls tight. They still step on traps sometimes, but they feel it sooner and release it faster. That's progress, not perfection, but awareness, shortening the reaction time. Eventually, you begin to sense your internal weather like a skilled sailor senses the wind. You know when conditions are stormy inside and you wait. You know when the sky clears and you move. And slowly trading becomes less of a battle and more of a rhythm, a dance between emotion and discipline. At that point, the traps lose their teeth. They still appear, but they no longer own you. You see greed coming and you smile. You feel fear rising and you breathe. You watch the cycle unfold and you stay centered while it spins. That is mastery. When you start seeing your emotions as signals instead of threats, something extraordinary happens. You no longer chase the feeling of control, you cultivate it. Control stops being about the market's movement and becomes about your own awareness of movement within. You learn that calm is not the absence of emotion, it's the alignment of it. Every feeling, even the uncomfortable ones, carries information. Fear warns you of attachment. Greed reveals impatience. Hope exposes denial. Awareness turns all of them into teachers. You begin to thank the market for showing you your blind spots. The same losses that once felt like punishment now feel like feedback. The same frustration that once drove revenge now becomes a reminder to pause. You start to trade with yourself, not against yourself. There will still be hard days. Days when you forget everything you've learned. When a single red candle pulls you back into the noise. When you find yourself whispering, "I knew it," or "I'll get it back next time." And that's okay. Awareness doesn't mean perfection. It means remembering sooner. Every time you notice a trap after it happens, you shorten the distance between reaction and realization. Every time you notice it before it happens, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. That's how growth feels small, subtle, steady. If you stay with this practice long enough, something shifts at the core. You stop trying to predict and start learning to respond. You stop demanding certainty and start embracing probability. You stop asking, "How can I win?" and begin asking, "How can I stay clear?" That clarity is priceless. Because once you see clearly, profit becomes a byproduct, not a pursuit. You trade less, but with more intention. You risk less, but with more confidence. You start measuring success not by how much you make, but by how little you violate your own plan. The mind traps will still whisper. They'll still tempt you with speed, excitement, and revenge. But you'll recognize their voice, and that recognition will break their spell. Awareness disarms them before they even take shape. And when you meet a new trap one you've never seen before, you'll greet it with curiosity instead of fear. You'll ask, "What is this one trying to show me about myself?" Because you'll know that every mental pattern, no matter how destructive, hides a lesson about attachment, ego, or resistance. And every lesson, if seen, clearly becomes liberation. That's the quiet revolution happening inside the best traders. They are not obsessed with prediction or control. They are students of their own psychology, using every trade as a mirror. They win by understanding their losses faster than others understand their wins. So when you sit before your screen tomorrow, remember this. You are not here to conquer the market. You are here to understand the mind that reacts to it. You are here to notice the traps before they close. You are here to master awareness. Because when awareness becomes your habit, discipline follows naturally. And when discipline becomes your nature, consistency is inevitable. Not forced, not desperate, just steady. In time, trading becomes less of a battlefield and more of a meditation. Each candle is a breath. Each trade is a test of presence. Each loss is a lesson in surrender. Each win is a reminder of balance. That's the real journey from chaos to clarity, from reaction to reflection, from mind traps to mindfulness. And one day, when a new trader asks you how you stayed calm through the storm, you'll smile and tell them the truth. You didn't escape the traps. You just learned to see them. And seeing them clearly, honestly, without judgment, was enough to disarm them. Because awareness, once awakened, never fully sleeps again. This is mind over markets. And this is how you master not the chart, but yourself. The deeper you trade, the more you realize the charts never lied to you, your mind did. Every bias, every impulse, every desperate trade was a lesson in disguise. And the moment you stopped fighting those lessons, they stopped controlling you. You no longer trade to feel in control. You trade to stay aware. You no longer chase the perfect setup. You build the mind that can execute one. This is the quiet power no one talks about, the ability to stay centered when uncertainty screams for attention. That's how traders evolve, not by predicting, but by perceiving, not by escaping the traps, but by recognizing them sooner every time. Because the market never punishes awareness. It only punishes blindness. Remember, you don't trade the market, you trade your mind. This is mind over markets. And the first step to mastery is seeing your own traps clearly.